Alright guys, welcome back to Tech Tanks. This video is going to be the first video that I'm going to be doing in regards to CEH version 11. EC Council recently released a new version of their Certified Ethical Hacker exam and certification itself. This exam switches its OS focus as far as for what system to use, from Kali Linux to Parrot OS, which is why you see me running Parrot here. And then beyond that, they just expanded a whole lot of stuff on like Internet of Things. They did some more manual hacking, but still the main focus is on Metasploit and using MSF Venom and the whole Metasploit framework. So I'm going to be making a series of videos over the next while, just kind of covering some of the things that I feel like EC Council's reading material really lacks on. I've read both version 10 and almost done with the version 11, and I have found that there are some things they just completely miss. For example, command injection, probably my favorite section they did. They have a whole one page on it, and basically put, if I type this into the URL, this is what will happen. Gives very little explanation as to why or how it works, so we'll cover that later. Today's focus is going to be using Metasploit. We're going to use that to hack a system. So this is definitely going to be script kiddie style, no manual exploits or anything like that. Just everything's going to be through Metasploit framework, and I'll explain how we set up a payload using MSF Venom, using the Metasploit console to catch the shell, set up a listener. Then we're going to use the privilege escalation method through Metasploit. We're going to use the hash dumps, a whole interpreter shell, all the fun stuff. So I did already go ahead and run a Nmap on the system we're going to be hacking into, which it's a hack-the-box system called Devel. If you are studying for your CEH or even your OSCP, Hack-the-Box is a great website to use. They have either 200 or close to 200 or more than 200 systems available if you pay for the VIP access. Totally worth it in my opinion, but anyway. So let's go ahead and get started. As you can see, I already have two console windows up. Both of them are in the Hack-the-Box Devel directories. And I'll just go ahead and cat Nmap real quick so you can kind of see what the scan showed us, what scan I ran first of all, and then also what ports it shows that are opening, kind of the results we got from it. So I'll go over Nmap in a different video pretty thoroughly, but for now, all you need to know is that this tells it to run it on all ports, run some scripts, do some OS fingerprinting, speed it up a little bit. I believe T3 is the default. T5 is the fastest. So I ran it on T4. The faster you run it, it can miss some things. There have been times where I've run it on T4 and got very few ports returned back, but if I slowed it down, I got better results. This is the output, and this just tells it to do a normal output to nmap.txt. This is something I kind of run in default if a machine is blocking ping probes. Then this will bypass it, and then of course we have our IP address. Okay. So the results that came back was that ports 21 and 80 are both open. 21 being FTP, 80 being HTTP. It is running Microsoft IIS, so right off the bat we know this is a Windows system. And then for FTP, it did run some scripts on it and said that you can log in as anonymous, and it just showed us what was in that main directory. So at this point we kind of go into the, alright, let's see what's available phase. We just kind of ran our initial scans. Now we're going to start kind of enumerating what's out there. So first thing I'm going to run to is port 80, kind of see what it is we're working with here. So let's see here. We'll go to 10.10.10.5. Okay. That's a whole lot of nothing. So when you come across a web server, you can run things like dirbuster. And there's a few other options out there to basically just brute force the directory and files that are on the web server. Before I do that, I want to take a look at FTP, and there's a couple reasons why. First of all, anonymous login, which is a really bad configuration to have on any FTP server, except for very specific scenarios. So I want to see what access we have to on that, and what's also catching my eye here is that ASPX and that HTM, those two files on there. That's indicating it has something to do with our web server. So let's take a look at that here. Can't make a video without having a few typos. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and just put in anonymous because it allows for anonymous login. I'm going to assume there's no password, so I'll just press enter. And we're in. And I have access to the FTP. Now, as far as for what access I have, not too sure yet. But there's a fun way to find out if we have what I'm going to call ultimate access to it. Let's see, we're going to go ahead and do test.html. Whoops. Okay, and what I'm doing here, guys, I'm just going to quickly make a basic HTML page, but I really want to close everything. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so I just put that into the directory, and we're going to see if we have write access here. And it looks like we do. So now we're going to test this, see if my theory is correct on here. And it is. Okay. So we have write access to this directory, and it goes straight into the server. So the first thing I'm going to try to do is create a reverse shell. And since we have an ASPX file here, we're going to just use MSFenum to create a payload for Windows. We're going to make an interpreter shell. Like I said, we're going to be using the Metasploit console, so I want to take full advantage of it. Do a reverse TCP. I'm going to set this to my VPN with Hack the Box. Just use listening port 1234. So that's what this is the listening host. You'd want to put whatever IP address you're using. Now, with Linux, you can use whatever your IP address is called, basically. So my VPN is called Tune0. And then the file type, we're going to do ASPX, and we're going to just put all this into a shell.aspx. Okay. And then I'm hoping this doesn't close out due to waiting too long. Cool. Alright, so as you can see, we have our shell.aspx on there. So let's go ahead and get Metasploit running here. Okay, so to set up a listener on Metasploit, you're going to use multi-handler. Okay, now as you can see here, using configured payload generic, we actually set up a very specific payload. So we want to set the payload to what we put in for MSFenum, which was Windows interpreter reverse TCP. We set our L host, again this is our listening host, to 0. Set the L port. Basically we want to match everything that we put into the MSFenum. And then we're going to go ahead and run it. And it started the reverse handle, or the reverse TCP handler. Then over here, let's see if it works. So if this works, once this goes to this file on the web server, it's going to basically run the ASPX file. When it runs it, it's running a reverse shell. Now, I will tell you right now, typically, if you use MSFenum, if the system has any kind of anti-malware running, or IDS or IPS system running, it's going to catch this. This is Hack the Box, so it's probably not going to catch it. Okay, so you can see we ran it, and something's happening over here. Create a session. All right, so this is why I wanted to run Meterpreter. Again, this video is mostly to focus using Metasploit. When you have a Meterpreter shell, you have some default options already available that you can use. Okay, to see those, just put in question mark and press enter. There's a lot. we can keep going, keep going, keep going. A lot of options automatically available. Get familiar with these, just in your hacking adventures. Kind of the two big ones that I want to focus on right now are hash dump and get system. All right, so hash dump, you can probably guess, it's going to dump the hashes. On a Windows system, this is going to be your SAM file. Unfortunately, you have to have the right access to do it. We don't right now. Okay, so we can also try get system. This runs through some basic things here, pipe impersonation, duplication, token duplication, things like that, to be able to escalate you right on up. Unfortunately, none of it worked. Okay, so let's get a shell and see kind of who we are right now. So who am I is going to work? IIS. So let's go to the C drive, kind of see what we're running here. Let's go to users. All right, so can I go into this one? Oh, definitely can't go into administrator. Okay. Well, we don't have a whole lot of access. So let me show you. This one won't take long, guys. We'll probably be done with this in the next 5 minutes. So I'm going to background this. Okay, and to background it, you just Control Z, and then yes, I want to background. Okay. Metasploit has this really cool thing called, I don't know what the full thing is, but I just call it the suggester. Okay. So if you search for it, when you have the matching modules part after you do a search, you can just put use, and you don't have to type out the whole name. You can just type in the number here. So we're going to do that, and then I'm going to set the session to 1. Okay, and sorry, I should probably point out why. The reason for that, the options, there are two things that you need to, or in this case, there are two things to be able to put in. You can change the session, which I did. I switched it to 1. And then show description, and each one of these displays a detailed description for the available exploits. I don't want that. So let's go ahead and run this. And by the way, you can type out exploit or you can type out run. Makes no difference. This is going to take a minute, but basically what this does is it looks at system info, if there's any hotfixes, and it basically tries to find any exploits that might work on the system. Then it will kind of run checks to see if these exploits will work. Now the way it runs those checks is if a certain service is running for the exploit or if there's a certain setting for the exploit. And it'll tell you it looks vulnerable, or it will tell you it can't be verified, but the service is running. It'll tell you things like that. And then there are times it'll tell you it's not vulnerable. So in this case, we got a lot of options here. So 35 exploit checks are being tried. And it's just kind of running through these. So just kind of looking at what was given first. So this one, the target appears to be vulnerable. Nil versions are discouraged and will be deprecated in Ruby Gems 4. Okay, the fact that it's discouraged, I kind of don't want to jump on that one right now. I know it's saying that certain versions are discouraged, but still. We got a lot of other options. Let's try these first. So we'll just kind of go right down the line here. This one, the service is running, but it couldn't be validated. So the fact that it couldn't validate it doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot. The service that's needed for this exploit does appear to be running. So we're going to go ahead and try it. So we're going to use exploit Windows local ms1. Okay, I'm going to type out more. There we go. 1. Okay, cool. So just so you know, I got this right from here. We'll do that. No payload configured. Okay, defaulting to that one. That's fine. So we're going to go ahead and set the L host again to tune 0. One thing I will tell you with Metasploit is it has a tendency to default if you're using a virtual machine, or I mean really for any system, it'll default to your primary IP address. So anytime you're going into a new section, go ahead and just reset it to your VPN, or I mean if it's on the right one, then by all means leave it. We're going to worry too much about the switching the port because it'll automatically set up its thing. And then we need to set the session. Okay. So we'll set session, and if you recall, it was session 1. And then let's go ahead and exploit it. And basically what this should be doing, what we're hoping for, is a privilege escalation at this point. Okay. And that's what the suggester is going to look for is, post-exploit, what can be done here. And for the most part, it almost always focuses on privilege escalation. So we're going to go ahead and run that. And what it should do is basically spawn a new interpreter session. So interpreter session 2. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to see who I am. And I am the system authority. So I have pwned the system. Now what I'm going to do here is show you that hash dump command again. And I just dumped the SAM file. If this is a Linux system, I remember last time I tried using hash dump on Linux or Kali, it wasn't available on Linux, so I don't know if that's something that's only for Windows now or whatever the case may be. But anyway, there you go. We have our SAM file. Now for Hack the Box and a lot of other systems out there, the whole point is to capture the flag. So let's just go straight into the administrator. Oh, what the? There we go. Okay. And it's always in the desktop. At least 90% of the time it's in the desktop. So there you go. There's your root.txt. For those of you not familiar with Hack the Box, or if you're brand new to it, take this and put it on in there. Okay? So just copy and paste. Now, the only reason why you're being showed the file, the flag file for root, this is a retired system. It's not one that they changed the file anymore. You can find plenty of videos and posts out there online to show you how to get into this system. But again, the main focus on this one was Metasploit. So just to kind of recap what we did here, we ended up creating a Meterpreter payload using MSFenum. We uploaded that into the very poorly configured FTP. And for those of you who may be brand new, the poor configurations are, first of all, anonymous. Poor configuration right there. No password required, nothing like that. The second bad configuration was that I have write access into that FTP server. So you basically left it open to everyone, and they can write into it, which there's a whole lot of ways that can go really bad. But the third and probably the worst thing was that it was into the web server on top of it. So just all those things combined led it to where I could get a shell in here. And as you can see, using Metasploit on this system, it was very easy to get. Now I have administrative access. I can create a new user. I can change pretty much whatever I want on the system now. So very poor configurations. But anyway, use that to upload a shell.aspx interpreter payload into the web server, executed on the using a browser. And you can also use curl or any other method to trigger it, and it'll be fine. And that got us our interpreter shell, our first one. Then we background it, send it over to the suggester to see if there's a privilege escalation option available. And there's actually more than one way to privilege escalation in this box. But again, Metasploit is the focus. And then I was able to pass that session into a privilege escalation exploit in Metasploit. And now I have system access. Okay, and again, with Meterpreter, you got a lot of options, but with the hash dump, put that into some kind of a hash cracker, and suddenly you can get passwords and everything else. And there are some hash crackers available online as well. Or of course, with CEH version 11, I believe the ones that they focus on there are like Hashcat and a few others like that. So those would work for this as well. So there you go, guys. We hacked into a system using Metasploit. Kind of give you an introduction on how it works. Really, the best way to learn Metasploit, guys, the best way to learn Metasploit is to just get out there and use it. In a legal, ethical sense, again, Hack the Box is a great option to do that with. So, all right, guys, I hope this helps you out a little bit. There will be a lot more videos to come for CEH version 11. Probably the next one I'm going to do is the command injection because, again, just terrible explanation inside of CEH version 11 reading. So, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. See you on the next one.